to enter into Syria and fight jihad against the Amalekah, the Al-Muqayts who were residing in Syria. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved the Bani Israel from the oppression of Fir'aun, and Fir'aun and his people, they drowned in the sea. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the Bani Israel the leaders and the king of Egypt. And they were living a very nice, peaceful, comfortable life, because now there is no more oppression over them. Fir'aun has been drowned, his people have been drowned, and the Bani Israel were left with Egypt, and they were the rulers and the kings of Egypt. Now it was at this time, after the Bani Israel, they saw the blessing of Allah. They saw how Allah Ta'ala saved them from Fir'aun. They saw how Allah Ta'ala caused the sea to split into two. They saw how ni'mah Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala gave them, how many blessings Allah gave them. It was at this time that Allah wanted to further give them more ni'mah. So Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala commanded them to go into their ancestral land, which was Syria, and just fight in jihad, and Allah Ta'ala promised them victory. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala said, يا قوم ادخلوا الأرض التي مقدسة التي كتب الله لكم. That Allah Ta'ala told Musa alayhi salam to tell his people, O my people, enter the holy land of Syria, التي كتب الله لكم, which Allah Ta'ala has destined for you. In other words, when you enter and you fight, 100% you will be victorious, because Allah has promised you victory. And then what happened when they were on their way from Egypt to Syria and they took a rest? Musa alayhi salam told the 12 leaders to go into Syria and see what is going on, collect some intelligence, see some information. And when they came back, they said that we found tall, big, strong people, and we will never enter into Syria until they leave, because we cannot fight against them. From the 12 leaders, 2 of them were righteous, and they said that just enter, surge into the gates of Syria and fight and put your trust in Allah. Allah will give you victory, because it is the promise of Allah. So the other 10 leaders, they told their people that there are such and such people in Syria, they are so big and tall and strong, we can never defeat them. So we will not fight, we will stay back. You and your Lord go fight. This is what they said to Musa alayhi salam. So as a result of this, Musa alayhi salam made dua against them, فَفْرُقْ بَيْنَنَا, that divide between us and the sinful people. So as punishment for not following the command of Allah and their messenger of going into Syria and fighting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala limited their space. For 40 years they were wandering in the Wadi Ati, in the valley of Ti. They could neither return back to Egypt nor could they go forward. So every day in the morning they would set out to return back to Egypt, and after a long night of traveling, they would find themselves in the same place and position where they began their journey on that very morning. So this was their punishment. Within these 40 years, Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam, Allah Ta'ala took their soul. And then after 40 years, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fulfilled the promise, which was whoever was remaining, or the new generation that came from the Bani Israel, along with their new Nabi, Yusha ibn Nun, they went into Syria and they fought, and as Allah promised, they gained victory and control over Syria. So that was one very important story that is mentioned here in Surah Al-Maeda. The next ayah, or the next group of ayat, is regarding a particular incident, a very famous incident, and that is the story of the 2 sons of Adam alayhi salam, Habil and Qabil. These 2 were the sons of Adam alayhi salam, and this story we find the first sin ever committed on the face of this earth. The murder of Qabil, who murdered his brother Habil, was the first act of disobedience and transgression committed against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the face of this earth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding Rasulullah to recite this surah, to recite this verse, and to recite this story to the Yahud and to the Jews that were there at the time, so they can take some lesson, and also lesson for all the humans and the insan to come afterward as well. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ بَنِي آدَمَ, that O Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, recite upon them, the Bani Israel as well as all of the people, نَبَأَ بَنِي آدَمَ, the story of the two sons, Ibnay Adam, بِالْحَقِّ, truthfully. Make sure that the story you are going to recite upon them is filled with the truth. And of course, from this we understand that it is mandatory to speak the truth with regards to historical events that took place in the past. So we must not over-exaggerate on certain stories or give false details that were never there, just to make the story look more appealing. And we know the Quran has many stories. And the point of these stories is not because the Quran is a storybook, but rather whatever stories are mentioned, there is a lot of wisdom and ibrah and lessons in them. So we find that most of the times, the stories that are being mentioned are not mentioned in the full details. Only parts and pieces are mentioned, and these parts and pieces are scattered throughout the Quran, so that the necessary lesson that needs to be drawn out is drawn out. So this is why we find these stories, parts and pieces are mentioned in different places according to the situation, to maximize the lesson that can be drawn out from those ayat. And we find most of the time the full story is not mentioned. Whatever details are not needed, Allah Ta'ala stays away from mentioning unnecessary details. But those details which are needed for you and I to understand and draw lessons, those are the details that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about these stories. So again, these stories are there for lesson, for ibrah, to take heed, to learn from their mistakes, not to make the same mistakes, and to learn from the righteous and the pious people, their actions, how Allah rewarded them, how Allah blessed them, so you can follow in their footsteps as well. So what was the story of the two sons of Adam alayhi salam? إِذْ قَرَّبَا قُرْبَانًا, when both of them, they offered a sacrifice. Both of them, they made a qurbani. فَتُقُبِّلَ مِنْ أَحَدِهِمَا, the qurbani and the sacrifice was accepted from one of the brothers, وَلَمْ يُتَقَبَّلْ مِنَ الْآخَرِ, and it was not accepted from the other brother. What was the reason why both of them, they made the qurbani? What was the reason that they both offered a sacrifice? Well, we know that Hawa alayhi salam, the wife of Adam alayhi salam, in the beginning of mankind, every time she would get pregnant, she would be pregnant with twins, one boy and one girl. This is how humanity spread. So every single pregnancy would be one boy and one girl. And that boy would marry the girl of the next pregnancy and vice versa. So the boy and girl who were born in the same pregnancy are legally known as brothers and sisters. And if they were born in different pregnancy at the time, because of the need of the time, they were able to marry one another, and legally they will not consider siblings. Of course, today we cannot marry our half siblings, but at that time, the Sharia of Adam alayhi salam and the need of the time, in order to spread humanity, this is the only possible way that humanity can spread. Of course, you cannot marry that boy and girl in the same pregnancy, but after, it is no problem at the time of Adam alayhi salam. So Hawa alayhi salam, she gave birth to Habil and his sister, and gave birth to Qabil and his sister as well. So according to the rule and the norm of the time, Habil had to marry the sister of Qabil, and Qabil had to marry the sister of Habil. But it so happened that the sister of Qabil was more beautiful than the sister of Habil. So he said, I want to marry my own sister, because she is more beautiful than the sister of Habil. That is not fair. He can marry his own sister, I can marry my own sister. This is what I want to do. So then, as we already mentioned, that is not allowed, because to marry from someone in the same pregnancy is not allowed. You can only marry from a child in a different pregnancy. So Adam alayhi salam told both of his sons that offer a qurbani. Whoever's qurbani is accepted, that is the one who will marry the sister of Qabil, the one who is apparently more beautiful than the other. Now Adam alayhi salam knew that the qurbani of Habil would be accepted, which was the other brother. Why? Because he was not allowed to marry from your own pregnancy. So the only reason why he told them to offer a sacrifice is to remove the hate and the division among them, so that they can see for themselves. They both agreed whoever qurbani will be accepted. Perhaps the hate and the division and the jealousy will be removed if they see this. So this is the reason why Adam alayhi salam told both of them to offer a sacrifice. So Habil, he was the owner of flocks. He had sheep and goats. So he sacrificed one of his best sheep and lamb that he had. And Qabil, he was a farmer. So he gave in sacrifice and qurbani some grains. Now both of them offered their qurbani and their sacrifice. And at the time, in order to know if your sacrifice is accepted, a fire comes from the sky and eats the qurbani of that person whose qurbani is accepted. So a fire came from the sky and ate the sacrifice and the qurbani of Habil. So that means his qurbani was accepted, and he is the one that is going to marry the sister of Qabil, like how it should have happened anyways. So now after seeing this, Qabil, he became angry and he became jealous that the qurbani of my brothers was accepted and my qurbani was not accepted. So what did he say? He said, قَالَ لَأَقْتُلَنَّكَ, I am definitely going to kill you. Out of extreme jealousy that the qurbani of his brother was accepted and not his, out of rage and anger, he said, I am going to kill you. Now what was the answer of his brother Habil? He could have answered with violence. He could have answered in a very rude way, because look at what he's telling him. He's threatening to kill him. This is something that is severe. This is not something small. So he answered and he said, قال, Habil, he said, إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only accepts from the righteous people. That if you had taqwa and you had ikhlas and you were fearful of Allah, Allah would have accepted your qurbani. Why are you getting mad at me? You should blame yourself. Your deed and your taqwa and your sincerity was not there. This is why your qurbani did not get accepted. So what is the reason why you are angry at me and you want to kill me? A very intelligent answer that Habil gave his brother. That this is because of you and not because of me. You left out taqwa, you left out ikhlas. Blame yourself, do not blame me. And from this we understand that only those deeds are accepted, those acts of ibadat and worship and obedience are accepted that have taqwa and ikhlas. Without taqwa and ikhlas, your deeds cannot be accepted. This ayah indicates towards that fact. And this is why the story of Amir ibn Abdullah, he was crying at the time of his death. So the people around him, they said, why are you crying? You are a man who used to live in the worship of Allah. You did so much ibadah, so much worship of Allah. What is the reason you are crying? So he said, this ayah keeps ringing in my mind and keeps playing in my mind. إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Allah Ta'ala only accepts the actions of those who are pious and have ikhlas. I do not know if any one of my acts of worship will be accepted or not. So this is the reason why he said, I am not confident in my ibadah because I do not know what will be accepted by Allah and what will not be accepted. So again, in order for our actions to be accepted, ikhlas only for the sake of Allah, and piety should be there in order for our actions to be accepted. Moving along this story, next Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَإِن بَسَطْتَ إِلَيَّ يَدَكَ لِتَقْتُلَنِي مَا أَنَا بِبَاسِطٍ يَدِيَ إِلَيْكَ لِأَقْتُلَكَ. Habil, he answers and he says to his brother, if you stretch your hand to kill me, I will not stretch my hand to kill you. You want to kill me, go ahead, but I will not stretch my hand and I will not kill you. Why? Because I would rather be killed and be the mazloom and get the help of Allah rather than being the zalim and being the oppressor and being punished by Allah. It is more beloved to me that you kill me rather than me killing you, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish you for that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive me for that as well. So that you kill me, you killing me is better and more beloved to me than me killing you. I do not want to be the zalim, but rather I want to be the mazloom. Although the scholars, they have mentioned that Habil, he was physically stronger than his brother. He was physically stronger than Qabil, and he could have stopped him or killed him himself if he wanted to, because he was the stronger brother. But yet he had patience, he had sabr, he put his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he had taqwa, and he had sincerity in his words and his actions as well. He said, Inni akhafu Allah Rabbal Alameen. I fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of all the worlds. Because if I kill you, I will be asked about this. What am I going to do on the day of Qiyamah? Then, next verse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inni uridu an tabu'a bi ithmi wa ithmik. That I want that you earn my bad deeds and you earn your own bad deeds. فَتَكُونَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ النَّارِ. And then you will be from among the people of Jahannam. So Habil is telling his brother, if you want to kill me, I will not kill you. I fear Allah. And if you kill me, you will get my sin and you will get your own sin. And if you have all of these sins, what is going to happen to you? You are going to be from Ashabun Nar. You are going to be from the inmates of Jahannam and the inmates of the fire. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ الظَّالِمِينَ. And that is the punishment of the oppressors, that they go to Jahannam. فَطَوَّعَتْ لَهُ نَفْسُهُ قَتْلَ أَخِيهِ فَقَتَلَهُ. Now, the soul of Qabil prompted himself to kill his brother, so he killed him. So his soul and his inner self prompted him to kill his brother, and he ended up killing his brother, Habil. فَأَصْبَحَ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. And he became from those who are losers. So now, the story is at such a stage where after the brief conversation between Habil and Qabil, and of course perhaps more has been said, but as we mentioned, Allah Ta'ala only highlights particular verses so that we can take lessons from them. When Habil told his brother that if you kill me, go ahead, but I will not kill you, I will not get the sin of killing you. So from this we understand that the cure for jealousy is not to attack others, is not to harm others and put themselves down, but rather you should look at yourself and your shortcomings. What is the reason why you were not given a ni'mah that another person was given? This is what you should be asking yourself. You should correct yourself. You should get closer to Allah. You should increase your taqwa and your iman and your piety, because this will benefit you. If you are jealous and you want to attack others, it will not benefit you at all, but rather it will harm you in this world and the year after. So the lesson from that is, instead of being jealous, look at yourself. What are your shortcomings? Because the ayah clearly says, إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Allah will accept from the pious and the righteous people. So if something is not going your way, it may be a test or whatnot, but try to remove the shortcoming from your life. If you are disobeying Allah, stop that. If you are lacking in your prayer, in your salah, in your obligation, put more focus. This will benefit you, rather than being jealous, hurting yourself, hurting those around you, hurting the one that you are jealous of, and ruining your dunya and ruining your hereafter as well. فَبَعَثَ اللَّهُ غُرَابًا يَبْحَثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Now Qabil, he killed his brother, and the body of his brother is laying over there. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a crow, يَبْحَثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ, who was scratching the earth, لِيُرِيَهُ, so he can show Qabil كَيْفَ يُوَارِي سَوْءَةَ أَخِي, how he can hide the corpse and the dead body of his brother. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually sent two crows, and they began fighting one another. One crow killed the other crow, and the crow that killed the other one scratched and dug a hole or a grave, you can say, in the ground and buried the other crow. So this is how Allah Ta'ala taught humanity what to do with a dead body, what to do with the corpse of a person who has been killed. So Qabil, he did not know what to do. So Allah sent the crows to show him what to do. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَالَ يَا وَيْلَتَا أَعَجَزْتُ أَنْ أَكُونَ مِثْلَ هَذَا الْغُرَابِ. He said that, woe to me, I cannot even be like this crow. فَأُوَارِيَ سَوْءَةَ أَخِي, that he was the one so that I could hide the corpse of my brother. Even I didn't know how to do that. Even the crow was better than me. Although the crow killed its other crow, still it knew how to bury the other crow. I didn't even know that. So woe unto me, if only I was just like this crow at the very least. فَأَصْبَحَ مِنَ النَّادِمِينَ, and he became from those who were regretful and remorseful. Now, if he was regretful over the murder, then perhaps this would have been tawbah for him. But he was only regretful and remorseful because he did not know how to bury the dead body of his brother. So this is why the scholars mention, if he had been remorseful and regretted his actions against his brother, then this is tawbah. When you are regretful and remorseful, you turn to Allah, you feel guilty, this is tawbah. This is what tawbah is. But he was only guilty of not knowing how to bury his brother, whereas the crow knew how to bury the other crow. So this was the incident over there until this point. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught humanity, and Qabil, which was again the first murder, is the first sin, and the first sin was murder. The first murder ever committed, the first sin ever committed on the face of this earth, which is why the hadith mentions, anytime a murder is committed till the day of Qiyamah, a share of that sin will go back to Qabil, because he is the one who established murder on the land. And this is the reason why we know the famous hadith that when you indicate towards a good deed and someone does it, you will get the reward as well. And if you indicate and show somebody some evil deed, or through your actions they see you doing evil and they copy you, the sin will come to you as well. So you have to be very careful over your actions and what you tell other people to do or not. Because as a result of your words and your actions, it may either be good and benefiting for you, or it may either be bad and you will get a share of the sin of the one who is copying you. So similarly, he was the first to commit murder. So all of the murders till the day of Qiyamah, of course the murderer will get his full sin, but a share of the sin will come to Qabil as well, because he is the one that established and began the first sin of murder in this earth. Min ajli dhalik, because of this incident where Qabil murdered his brother Habil, كتبنا على بني إسرائيل أنه من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا. That we have كتبنا على بني إسرائيل, we have prescribed upon the Bani Israel that whoever kills another person بغير نفس, without qisas. So if you kill somebody because he killed somebody, then that is no problem, that is justice. But if you kill somebody who has not killed someone before, أو فساد, or he has not committed any fasad, that he deserved the death penalty. And we will mention that those ayat are coming, the hudud, the capital punishment of certain crimes. So if a person did not kill another person, or he did not do any crime that necessitated that he be killed, and you kill such a person whose blood was haram for you to touch, فَكَأَنَّمَا قَتَلَ النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. It's as if you have killed the entire humanity. And what does it mean? You kill one person, what does it mean? How does that mean you kill the entire humanity? Literally, it does not mean that you kill the entire humanity because you only killed a single person. But what this means is that you have now violated the sanctity of human blood. And you made the human blood seem insignificant. And you have established the practice of murder. And those people who had evil in their heart, it just made them bold and brave to commit the murder. Which is why in societies and communities where there are people who murder others, why do people follow? Why is that community and society heavy on the same crime that people have been doing before? Because when one person starts it, it encourages others, it makes other people brave and bold to carry out that. Now imagine nobody did it in a community. Everybody will be scared to be the first one to do it. So when you kill somebody, you have now deemed the blood of human to be insignificant. And you are establishing this practice as if it is no big deal, and people will follow you, and people will now be brave to do the same thing. This is the reason why it's as if you have killed the entire humanity because of the evil that you were leaving in the world by committing these grave and these great sins. وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا. And whoever saves a life, فَكَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. It's as if he has saved the life of all of humanity. Again, the same reason is because he now protected the sanctity of human blood. And he showed how valuable the human blood is. So other people, they can follow the same footstep and direction. And when more people follow, you have saved more people's lives. But when you kill somebody and somebody sees you, and he commits a murder, and then somebody sees him, so on and on and on. So it's as if you committed murder to many people, if not the entire mankind. So this is the reason why Allah Ta'ala mentioned this. It's not in its literal sense, but the meaning behind it is as such. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَتْهُمْ رُسُلُنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ. And indeed our messengers have been sent to them with clear signs. ثُمَّ إِنَّ كَثِيرًا مِّنْهُمْ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ فِي الْأَرْضِ لَمُسْرِفُونَ. Still, after these signs, many people, they still transgress in the limits set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a refutation and rebuking the Yahud, who despite had knowledge of these incidents, they had knowledge of the crime of murder, and how evil it is individually in a society for all of humanity. Despite having all of this knowledge, despite knowing all of these incidents, they still engaged in killing many people and thousands of Anbiya. So this is the epitome of jahala and disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that knowing the great harm that it causes to a family, to an individual, to the entire humanity, still, despite this ilm and this knowledge, they act on their evil characteristics and their evil wishes and desires. Another reason why Allah mentioned that when you kill one person as if you kill the entire humanity is to frighten people from staying away and keeping them away from ever even thinking about committing murder, and to, as much as possible, protect people from any harm and from any evil as well. And this brings the end of the incident of Habil and Qabil. From the next ayat, Allah Ta'ala brings a brand new topic, which will begin the hudud, capital punishments. Such punishment that Allah Ta'ala has mentioned the crime. And if that crime is committed and all the conditions have been met, then the punishment that Allah has prescribed in the Quran must be carried out in the Sharia court. So from this we see the evil of jealousy. This is probably the most important lesson from this, the harms of jealousy. What jealousy can do to a person, and how the first sin ever committed on this earth was because of jealousy. This is enough for you to understand the harms and the danger of jealousy. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from all form of jealousy and envy. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the tawfiq to understand and act upon what has been said. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين سبحان الله وبحمده وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Inshallah, we have some food as well. Our brothers are requesting